see if we found one there. I'll see
What inspired this event? I was at a meeting with Juanita Irizarry and Amara Enya, and we sat for 2 hours and we were talking about their campaign and what they face and what I heard from Amara a lot was the questions, the doubt, are you strong enough? You're a woman, can you break the machine? Are you crazy for going against the machine? You don't have money, your age is not right. And that's when it hit me. And I said, as a woman in Chicago, we face that and more. And I said, and I started to think, and I said, holy shit. But that was the truth. I said, there's so many women who are running for a seat in the city council. And not only are they underrepresented, they're underestimated. These women are out here kicking, some badass, what. So, and I said, right before Amara and Juanita left, I said, I got it. We're gonna put a woman event together. And they're like, oh, that sounds great. I said, no, really. It was like right before Christmas. They're looking at me like, you're crazy. I said, yes, I am. But here we go. A month later, we put it together. And, there's a group of women here. There's 6 women who I called and said, I basically put up a blueprint. And these women who are so amazing, we're organizing this, the WOW group. They take my blueprints and they make them into reality. So this is not just me. I just do the blueprint. And they make it happen. And so I just want to say that, Amara was a part of the reason we did this event. She is a very brave woman, like all the other women here taking hit. We got to take into consideration. Yeah. Before I keep going, I got a few calls from a few men, aldermen. They're crying, they're mad. They're like, what the hell are you doing? So, but these women, when a woman says she's gonna run for office, it's her and her entire household.
That's right.
Whether she's out there door knocking to come home, to bath her kids, to feed the dog, to feed the cat, whatever it is, these women are more than a candidate. And we're here to listen to their stories that they inspire on our everyday lives, and to see, so that we can see how brave they are. And I just want everyone here to realize and to keep in mind that this is just the beginning, and they're candidates. You're the community. We need them, they need us, we're one, we can make this happen. So whatever inspired you to be here today, whether it's these women, the political, the machine, whatever it was, you're here, your foot's in the door, let's make this happen. I turn it over to our wonderful woman right here, Amara Enya. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's cold, but at least it's not as cold as it was last year. So I think we should be a little more revved up this afternoon. I want to thank all of you for being here today to this incredibly important event. This is an event that was designed by a group of dynamic women. I remember the conversation that Rosemary recounted to all of you about just sitting around the table and talking about the challenges that we face, but also the opportunities. And so what we want to leave you with today is not just that these are women, but what kinds of women? What does it take for women uniquely to decide that they want to be servants to the public? Because that's what this is about. This is about service. I wanted to take a moment to thank those 6 women, and also to thank all of the aldermanic candidates. I think they deserve a round of applause for being here. And I want to thank every one of you for being here to hear these stories. Thank you. So I want to give an opportunity for each of these women to introduce themselves, just to go down the line and talk just a little bit about the ward they're representing and what they are, well, essentially the ward that they are representing. So we can start.
Oh, hello. Is it because I'm
We have
late?
2 minutes.
You go first.
Yes.
All right. Hi, my name is Ian Shaw, and I apologize for being a little bit late today. The campaign work never stops, and I'm battling a cold. But I'm running in the first ward for Alderman. You'll hear from Rhonda Locke as well. And one of the reasons why I jumped in the race, as Alderman already knows, is my alderman voted to close down 2 police stations in the first ward, as well as the mental health facilities in our ward. And just to show you how much he cares about the people of our ward, he actually held a Christmas party there 2 weeks ago at our closed mental health facility. And then he also said, because I see some Northside Democracy for America people here too, shout out to them. He also said at that meeting that it was one of his proudest moments to close down our police stations.
Oh my God.
Yep, this is how much he cares about women's issues as well as our kids. He was in the forefront to lambast the CTU for their strike on Fox National News, not just local but national, which tells you who he is. And the third thing that really drives me crazy is that, you know, and Rhonda probably will talk about a little bit about it, is that he takes so much money from developers, pawn shop owners. I mean, he grants 5AM licenses. These are issues that they don't help our community. And so we need to elect people who are progressive, who care about our communities, and that's a little bit about me. So thank you. I know there's a lot of ladies here. Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much, Amara. Thank you for moderating and for this crew putting this together. It's an honor to be here. So my name is Rhonda Locke, and I too am running in the first ward. We are going to keep the incumbent below 50%. So. I am a 10-year hardworking advocate for the community. Since '86, I've been in business, a marketing professional, but the last 10 years I really became heavily engaged in the community. I'm holding leadership roles, president of Park Advisory Council, twice elected to local school council. I'm serving as the current chair. I serve as an adult moderator for the Chicago Police Department peer jury program. So I am part of the community. And as I watch, because the former alderman actually, in 2010, actually came, he said, this appointed guy needs some help. So I hate to admit, but I did work for 2 years in the incumbent's office. I left fall of 2012 primarily because he would not put a non-binding referendum for an elected school board on the ballot. Second issue, absolutely that office is on autopilot, and I'm hearing that as I go door to door. So poor city services. So, also political activism. I've got a great report with Scott Wagasback, Bob Fioretti. I help without the Progressive Reform Caucus. So, there are things that I can get on the sidelines and get very agonizing. Ann did refer to our alderman who likes to take developer donations. He has raised $700,000 in the last 4 years and is out there bragging about spending $140 for community, schools, parks, snow removal, lot cleanup, graffiti removal. And we did have a very boisterous debate earlier this week, and I called out the fact that where is the extra $560,000, and he had no answer. He didn't respond to that. So I hope to maybe weave in a little bit of that later on. But bottom line, I sat on the sidelines, and I could agonize or I could organize. So earlier, I just thought I'm choosing to organize. That's why I'm
A reminder, just one minute, so that we can make sure we get through all of these lovely women today.
Good afternoon, I'm Stacy Pinkston, and I'm running in the newly created second ward. It's an honor to be here before you and in the historic Hull House. If you're not familiar with the second ward or have not seen the gerrymandered map that I'm dealing with currently, and it also put out their political opponent, Alderman Fioretti, which was why it was designed that way. So even though the machine power brokers created that new second ward, they should not get to run it. And that's why I'm in this area. My former boss, Alderman Fioretti, I recently have come from working in the second ward office, and I've developed a passion for not only serving constituents, but working on policies that are going to affect not only the second ward residents, but all of Chicagoans. And when he decided to run for mayor, I thought, you know what, we can't afford to lose that independent seat on the Progressive Caucus. And so I'm running so I can replace him in the Progressive Caucus and continue fighting for our Lex School Board, for reopening our mental health clinics, for reform. Let's find that surplus money, let's bring it back to our neighborhood schools. And also I want to reinstate the Department of Environment. You know what, we are a leading city in the nation. Not only, important for us to start working on issues of truly affecting climate change here, but it is revenue generating, producing 3 times the revenue of the department's cost. So let's bring back the Department of Environment, and thank you for being here, for allowing me to be here today. I'll be a strong voice for not only the second ward, but for the entire city.
Thank you so much. My name is Olga Bautista. I'm from the 10th Ward. Latina. I'm a mother of a 7-year-old and a 1.5-year-old daughter. I have a deep commitment to the future of the 10th Ward. My vision is to create a safe and a healthy environment for the children and the community, and also to demand a revitalization plan that will bring sustainable jobs to the community. I will be a strong voice for the people of the 10th Ward, and I will ensure that the voice of the people is heard loudly in City Hall and beyond. As one of the leaders in the Ban Petco campaign, I have led the fight to force state and local politicians, including the Attorney General, Lisa Madigan's office, the City Council, and also the Governor's office to address the pressing environmental issues in the 10th Ward. Frontline communities are often left out on the more important decisions when it affects them the most. It doesn't have to happen this time around. I will continue to use my community organizing skills to bring the people of the 10th Ward together and to harness our power so that we can also impose our will. We know how to march, we know how to have rallies and meetings and all the rest of it, but how are we going to impose our will on City Hall? And that's going to take a strong candidate, a strong alderman who's not going to be bullied and who's not going to give in to these false promises of jobs when it just goes to people like union workers who already have jobs. I want jobs that are going to address the issues of the chronic unemployment in my community, the chronic underemployment. That's what we need, in permanent good jobs. That's who's going to lift our city up and our ward up, and that's why I'm running for 10th Ward Alderman.
Hello, my name is Sue Sedlowski Garza, and I'm running for 10th Ward Alderman. I'm running for Alderman because in the 10th Ward, we know we deserve better. We've been long been the forgotten entity that people have forgot. We can't even buy a book in our neighborhood. We get agri-fine, we get fertilizer plants and Petco down there. I've been living in my ward for 55 years. My family has been in the ward for 140 years. I'm area vice president for Chicago Teachers Union. I sit on the steering committee for CORE, the Caucus of Rank and File Educators. I have spent the last 27 years of my life advocating and fighting for the rights of working families. And I will not blink an eye to do that while I'm in office. I will not blink an eye. I will not be a rubber stamp alderman like the current alderman that we have in place now. You talk about women. Our alderman, John Pope, had the audacity to hire a man, Thomas Sajak, who was put on the do not hire list because he sexually harassed a woman, an African American woman. He sexually harassed her. City Council awarded this woman $99,000, rightfully so. Rightfully so, sisters. And 3 months later, he hired him. Wow. When the story broke in the Sun-Times, the illustrious alderman said, I didn't know about it. He claimed he didn't know. City council members vote on settlements like that. This is the type of alderman that we have. Totally disrespects women. I've come out and I stand up, not just for women, I stand up for families, I stand up for children, I stand up for every single one of our constituents within the 10th Ward, and I will continue to do that.
What she said. Hi everybody, I'm Maureen Sullivan and I'm running for alderman in the 11th Ward, and by the way, welcome to the 11th Ward. This is the first time we are electing a new alderman in the Mariah Ward. Not just in my lifetime, I'm talking about in the history of the ward. And so this is truly a historic election, not only because of that, but because I'm the first woman to ever get on the ballot. I am a fourth-generation Bridgeporter. I am one of the founders of the Bridgeport Alliance. We are the first voice of the people. The machine does not expect us to talk back to people, and we need to. And that's what we did. We organized, we made them work. I was running against Alderman Balser, who was a 17-year incumbent. 7 days after I announced, he decided he was retiring. Well, guess what? It said in the press, it said in policy, one of the articles about us that only one person is not running against an incumbent. I'm not running against an incumbent, but it sure as hell feels like it. I'm running against Patrick Daley Thompson right now, and he is a prince. And people basically are like, well, it's expected. Well, the hell with that. It's not expected. Why can't we run against these people? And so, I'm here to tell you that for the first time in my lifetime, I am seeing the Daleys work. Patrick Daley Thompson is out knocking on doors, shilling for votes in Bridgeport. And it is awesome. It is awesome. So that's why I'm here talking with you today, and we can do this. Thank you.
So I was just reminded that I have 1 minute, so I'm going to keep it really short. My name is Guadalupe Rivera, and I am running for alderman in the 16th Ward. I am a teacher. I've been teaching in my ward for 9 years, and I've been living there for 15 years, and I'm just sick and tired of all the crap that has not been done. You know, when you walk around my community, and this is one of the reasons why I'm running, when I walk around my community, I just hate that I worry about my kids every day. I hate that I worry the streets they walk, and I hate that I worry whether they're going to be home safe. I hate that I worry whether their parents are going to have enough money or they're going to have a home to go to every night. And so really, that's the only reason I'm running. I'm worried about my kids.
Hello everyone, I am CM Winters Palacio, and I really appreciate the love. As we continue on in this panel, you all will find out that I've caught a lot of blows trying to get to the ballot. We'll talk about that later. I am CM Winters Palacio. I am a proud CPS parent. I am a member of our local school council for Vanderpool. In addition to that, I am a college librarian who has an affinity for cuss words. Next, and most importantly, I am a proud member of Local 1600, Cook County College Teachers Union, where I serve as the grievance chair. And as the grievance chair, I'm taking that energy from Local 1600 and trying to bring it over to LaSalle, where we have no problem asking people to answer our questions and then showing them the door when they don't. It is important that we have aldermen who know how to read. And I'm not saying that foolishly. A lot of times, the aldermen will vote on ordinance that they have not even read. This is the reason why we have rubber stamps, because they don't read. Reading is fundamental, everybody.
It's so hard to follow these ladies. They've already said so much of what is to be said. My name is Juanita Irizarry, or Juanita Irizarry, whichever one you pronounce. I am running for alderman in the 26th ward. That is mostly the Humboldt Park area. I have lived in the greater Humboldt Park area for 40 of my 46 years of life. So this is my community, and my candidacy comes from my many years of working in community organizing and community development all throughout the area. I really came up in an era where we were fighting as independent Democrats against the Hispanic Democratic Organization and the corruption of that group over the years. So I've been very much taught and brought up by a group of folks who believe that we have to work against the machine and we have to work against the entities in our community that would rather sell out our community. Just to the east of me, the history of my community is a Latino alderman who is exchanging zoning changes for campaign contributions. That kind of thing is not that uncommon yet today. And my background and expertise is in community development and affordable housing. I studied urban planning right here at UIC. I also have a master's degree in public administration from the Harvard Kennedy School. It's not every day that a girl from Humboldt Park gets to go to Harvard, and I believe that I need to bring back to my community all of that expertise that I was so fortunate to gain. That's why I'm running for office for independent politics and to have some really educated, not just can read, aldermen in this area.
Hi, my name is Tammy Benson. Candidate for the 28th ward. I'm a CPS teacher. I'm a CTU member, a member of the executive board, a lifelong West Side resident. I believe in representative democracy. I believe that the Democratic machine has run Chicago for so long that there has to be some level of pushback. I believe that we have aldermen who are in office who are so used to not being challenged that they're complacent and they're not representing the people that elected them. So I believe that we need to have people who care about what goes on in the city, people who love living in the city, and people are willing to fight to affect change. That's why
Hi, I'm Zerlina Smith. I do apologize. In the 29th ward. I was challenged, and I know I'm an underdog. I am a single mother, a homeowner in the Austin community. I am a licensed cosmetologist. I wasn't afforded to have the education that these women have right here because I had to drop out of school to maintain a household at 16. But I went back and got my GED. Before I decided to run, I was going back to school to continue my education, to be a better mother and a leader for my child and other kids. When you look at what a movement is, this is a panel up here of women that have started from the ground up. Fighting. I'm a proud member of Action Now. I am a parent leader at Action Now. I am an associate core member. I represent my teachers in my community, but first of all, my kids. Because those are the ones that we're supposed to represent as elected officials. When you think of the disinvestment with the closed schools that Rahm Emanuel has done, I will not stand back and let another school close as a parent on my watch. I will not let my daughter work for impoverished wages to live in a city where the prices of property taxes are going up, the cost of food, and no resources in a community that is on a path to disinvestment, because we've seen with the 99% poverty area, which I live in, and continue to go down with ex-offenders returning. I'm going to work for the working poor. I can read, I can write. If you put a book in front of me, I'm going to open it up, I'm going to read. I am an educator by books. I'm an educator by the company that I keep. I am a leader by the role that I have to play. And for this great panel of strong women. And we running to let them know that this is a new day and time. And we gonna win. We gonna win.
So I am Irma Cornier. I'm from the 31st Ward. I'm running against the Vice Mayor. Try to keep me off. Everyone was trying to keep me off. I just won my petition this past Monday. I was 17 years old. I'm 37. A lot of people haven't complained that like you're too young. You're a 22-year-old kid. I'm like, no, I'm not. Look me up. Everything's not public knowledge. What I've been doing with my community, I've been working with the faith-based organizations. I've been working with homeless programs. Our incumbent does not and refuses to have a homeless shelter in our community. My pastor, he has the building, he has the equipment available. He told him, Ray, you know what? I want to have a homeless shelter in the community. He's like, you better not. Don't even think about it. And I'm opposed to that. I want to have resources for our kids. I want to have development for our kids. We have to have economic development. We have to have youth development. Not only that, the thing is that our ward, which was redistricted by our incumbent, was redistricted completely. It was shrunk drastically. And within that small little tiny ward that we have, 2400 Fullerton, all the way to 3600, believe it or not, we're gang infested, drug infested. We have 46% narcotics. We have 30 gangs in our ward. Okay, we have kids that what they do, they're so organized, right? And I wish these kids would use that potential and would have what I was given. I had to work the same way like Zerlina did. We both attended Clemente. We know what the struggles are. We come from working class, from the poor. My mom was a maid, okay? I did not have certain things that other people had. I had to struggle for my education. My education was not free to me. I had to fight for my education. And I was the only person in my family to have a degree. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pursue this because I want other kids to know if I'm able to do this, you can do it as well.
That's right. Good afternoon. I am Tara Stamps. I was raised by the baddest activist I know, which was the late Marion Stamps. And it's on her shoulders that I stand. It's in the shadow of the 22 women who founded Delta Sigma Theta who marched even when they knew we couldn't vote to protect that right, to usher in that right for us to have a voice, and to not only have a voice but the seat at the table, and not to be told what we gonna eat and what to spit out. And so as I was coming up here, I never know what I'm going to say, but I'm gonna say this. Being a woman is not enough. Being a woman is not enough, because when you're a woman and you're wrong on the issues, it's just as bad. When the sisters coming behind you, because we now gotta check them and we gotta check the people that brought you. So I say that to say, yes, I'm going up against the woman. That's still my sister. But my sister is wrong on the issue. My sister is a rubber stamp alderman, flat out. 100% of the time she has voted with not only this mayor, but Daley too. On policies that cripple our people. That's unacceptable. So I'm ushered and I'm unctioned and I'm provoked by a quote that says, in order for bad people to succeed, it's for good people to do nothing. So I'm the good people. We the good people. And it's time out for all of this expense on the backs of poor and working class people. But these austerity programs and the privatization of our city, we taking it back. And if it's anybody that's gonna take something back, you gotta know it's a woman.
I'm Diane Delighten. I'm a CTU member. I'm a long-term, over 30-year resident of the 40th Ward, and I'm running against Pat O'Connor. Everything that everyone has said today, ditto, ditto, ditto. What I'd like to say is thank you for organizing this event. It's about time that women establish a political agenda in Chicago for all of us.
Yes.
It's about time that we had an agenda that is not exclusive to businessmen, rich people, corporations, family members. It has to be accessible to all of us, and this agenda needs to include fully funded schools, neighborhood public schools, that's right, neighborhood public schools, fully funded neighborhood health clinics, mental health clinics, and accessible and safe public transportation in all neighborhoods. Our women's agenda needs to include a stop or an end or a slowdown to the privatization that's reaping obscene profits while they're cutting our jobs and our benefits and our hours. It is tough to work in Chicago and be in Chicago if you're a working person. I was recently asked by an interviewer, gee, you used to be a social worker and then you did sales and then you were a teacher, and I said, well, when you get divorced and you're trying to maintain your household, you have to work every job that comes down the street. Needs to be for working people, for women, for children, and for families. The two words I want to leave you with are activism and involvement. That should be the hallmark of the Chicago political landscape moving forward. And I vow, I don't have a runoff, I vow I will be the alderman on September. And I know in September that I will be walking with the CTU if we can't reach a contract in June. Energy and all my volunteers towards all the other women who are in runoffs after February 24th.
Hi, my name is Denise Davis, and I'm a candidate for alderman for the 46th Ward. I'm running against the Pigeon Alderman. I came to Chicago 30 years ago, and I'm gonna make it brief. Didn't realize it was gangs in a community. I thought it was something you saw on TV. I had 2 babies in tow. I had to get out there and find out who my children were with. In the process, I got the attention of Helen Schiller. I was her chief of staff until she retired for 24 years. I know how to run a ward office. I know how city services work. I know how City Hall works. The thing about it is the people might have changed. The departments might have been consolidated, but it's the same old, same old. I'm sick of the same old, same old. I have an alderman who totally got rid of 3 buildings. 1325 West Wilson, the Hotel Chateau, and also the Lawrence House. Those buildings housed people with 1 paycheck a month. There was maybe $665. And he wonder now why there's people up under the Wilson Avenue Bridge, because you put them there. We are not going to allow any more affordable housing be sucked from our community anymore. The other thing is we have to have choices and resources. My thing is, if you keep taking resources out of the community, why do you think the kids act the way they do? They have nothing to do. I'm going to bring those resources back. I'm proud of the fact that I even had to go across the city to train other automatic officers. So I do know what I'm doing. And for those of that one person who says she'll never be alderman, watch me. I'm coming down the middle, February 24th.
These are some amazing women. I think they deserve another round of applause. It's really an honor to be up here with all of these amazing women. I would be remiss if I didn't just do a brief introduction of myself before we get into the conversation. Again, my name is Amara Enya. I am the daughter of activists. My father fought in a civil war in Nigeria. My mother was a frontline nurse in that war. They fought against dictators who actually lost their life for challenging a machine. That's the context that I come from. I grew up at the rallies. I grew up believing that every person is born with power. Every person. Regardless of the neighborhood you live in, regardless of your socioeconomic status, regardless of your race or your gender, we are born with power. And we have to be reminded of that sometimes. I'm a woman who watched my parents come to Chicago and thousands of miles away be threatened by governments that sought to take them out because they believed in democracy, because they believed that we have a responsibility to challenge governments that do not serve the people. So it's not lost on me when people talk about the Chicago machine. I was just a little bit unimpressed. Because you can actually vote here and live to tell the tale. So I am a West Sider, proudly. I spent many years collecting degrees, 6. But because of a sense of responsibility that every skill, every gift, every talent we have is supposed to be used to help others. I took all that education and all of that rearing. And because I wanted to understand what is going on in Chicago, why is the level of inequity what it is, I decided that there was no other place to do it than to work in the belly of the beast, in City Hall, under Mayor Richard M. Daley. I was very intentional, because I don't believe that you can understand how to dismantle or modify a system if you don't know how that system works, right? From the inside. That's right. And so that is precisely what I did. I spent several years watching how the machine operates. I'm sure many of these women here have stories and experiences with the fruits of that machine. And it became apparent to me that we need bridge builders in the community who can help take some of that knowledge to empower people to advocate for themselves. Because this isn't about asking for things. I think sometimes we get into this habit of asking, right? Begging. People that are supposed to be serving us. So I went straight to the West Side. I went to the Austin community. Because we never talked about Austin when I worked in City Hall. And because of that sense of responsibility that my knowledge, my gift, my skill set is supposed to help that community. I'm also fairly impatient. I'm 31 years old. For many, that seems to be too young. But I'm reminded as we are a week away from celebrating Martin Luther King Jr., his birth and his legacy, I'm reminded of a speech that he gave, Why We Cannot Wait. Thank you. I live in East Garfield Park, and so the issues that we talk about, I see every single day when I step outside my door. And I've never been the type of person to fear any person, certainly no man. And so I was compelled to run for mayor. Now the thing is, for many people it seems so outlandish and so extraordinary. For me it just seemed like the thing to do. I knew I was qualified. I knew I had the experience. As long as my parents and my family supported me, I knew I had support. But more importantly, I had a responsibility. That same Martin Luther King Jr. that we are honoring in 1 week, when he was leading the largest boycott in this country's history, he was 25 years old. He was 38 when he died. Some of our most fearless revolutionaries, because what we're talking about is revolutionary.
Yes.
It's radical.
Yes. Right. It's radical.
It is radical. When they were in their prime, they were what we consider young. That's for a reason. Because we have the energy. We do. If you saw my campaign schedule when I was running, that's the advantage that I had. But more importantly, we have the new ideas, we have the new perspective, we have the new innovative solutions to solve persistent problems that have plagued us for decades. And so if we do not create an environment for these women to get into these spaces where they are making decisions that affect our lives, we will continue to regress because there's no such thing as stagnation. There's a quote that says, you can tell the status of a community by the progress of its women. Right? And so when I embarked on my journey, and it was fraught with many, many challenges, to have the sense of self to say that you will challenge the most powerful political machine in this country, and to do it unapologetically, it takes a certain mindset. But this isn't about me, and it's never been about me. This is about those who are coming after me, those who are coming after us. So we have to be careful about the message that we send to these women. Because they've already decided that they're going to take the risk. They're going to take the stand. Nothing that anyone can say will deter them, because I'm sure they've all had those conversations with the naysayers.
Oh, yeah.
But think about the women that are looking up to them. When you tell them that they're not qualified, you're not telling them, you're telling the women that are the girls that are looking up to them. So when we talk about the fact that Chicago has only had one woman as mayor in our long history, we have, according to this stat, 16 women serving as aldermen in a city council of 50. 2 women in statewide office. It shows how important these women are. Not just because they're women, but because they are on the right side of the issues that help our communities. And so I want to open up this discussion now that you know who's standing before you. And I want this conversation to be one that is edifying and that shows the progress that these women have made. But I also want you to learn from their experience. And so what I'm going to prompt, and it's an open forum, so there are mics that are going around, so as you feel moved, you can speak to your experience, respectful of the large size of the panel that we have. But I want to start this conversation with the challenges. I faced many in my journey. I probably have to write a book after this. But I think it would be helpful for the audience to hear some of the key challenges, just a couple of challenges that you faced, and how you overcame that challenge from your perspective. So the floor is open.
My challenge is I'm running as an independent, grassroots. When you think of grassroots, think of me, because I am the seeds before it gets to the grass, okay? The main challenge, most definitely, was getting out and engaging with people and getting them back in the belief that if we bring about change, it starts with us. That was the hardest challenge, to get people to believe that I won't just get in and do exactly what the last other person did before them, which is do whatever they were told by the mayor. I got challenged, got very deterred, because I had no resources, no money, didn't know if I could continue to go back to ask my friends and family for another dollar, who don't work, who are on pensions, who are unemployed, couldn't figure out a way to say, let me find a way to feed them just to come give me a quarter or 50 cents. Got an attorney, still owe my attorney to get on this ballot, okay? To fight for something that's supposed to be democracy. Yes. When you have people that have sat in these seats who feel as though they can go pull up imaginary folks to challenge you without even having the guts to do it themselves. Yes. Let you know how they think about the voters. I was challenged on 1,600 signatures saying that none of those people existed in the 29th ward. We collected over 8,000 signatures, but only turned in 1,600 because I had car problems. My car broke down, had to get it fixed on the street, okay? The radiator went into the back of the trunk where the petitions were at. So what happened? By the grace of God, I had Karen Lewis petitions on my table in my living room. I went home and I said, I'm done. There's nothing more I can do at this point. We had 2 days prior to turning in the petitions. Picked up Karen Lewis petitions. The very first signatures that we went and checked were under Karen Lewis petitions. That was at 1,600. God is good.
All the time.
God is good. I ran because of Karen Lewis. I ran because I said, here's a woman that's going to step up and gut punch these fools. That's why I said I can win. When my 5-year-old daughter goes on Facebook and maybe delete some of y'all because our kids know tablets and all these up-to-date equipments, she says, Mommy, is Karen feeling better? I say, why? You ask, is Karen feeling better? Because she helped you get on the ballot. Because I fell to my knees when I seen those petitions. And the hardest part was knowing that I had a group of people standing out, helping me. Had to go get 300 affidavits. CORE came out, CTU teachers came out, SEIU, Action Now, community people came out to show me that we believe you got those signatures and those signatures matter. And these women called me, Facebooked me, you got it, you got it. All I kept saying was, I hope so, I hope so. That's all I can say. But the faith came from this room of women who I called crying, who I called saying, I'm taking my daughter's Christmas presents away because I need an attorney for these bogus, malicious challenges, stating that we falsified signatures to get on the ballot, to get an attorney. We didn't have a Christmas. But my daughter said, Mommy, when you win that office, we gonna celebrate Christmas.
A lot of the challenges that I face doing this, a lot of the things that I've done throughout my life, I think have led me to this moment. People have been prodding me to run for office for the last two election cycles, and I wasn't ready, right? And I, like you, Zerlina, and many of the women that sit here, Karen inspired me to run as well. I sit on the steering committee for CORE, as I said, and I sit on the executive committee for CTU, and we talked about it, and I said, the time is now, the time is now. It hasn't been easy. I mean, I have 4 kids, they're all grown, they're all gone. I went back to school when my kids were little. I had 3 kids under the age of 2. I got pregnant with, I had a baby that was 9 months old, and then I got pregnant with twins and brought home twins when the other one was 16 months old, and used to beg my husband, please don't go to work, we'll eat newspaper, I don't care. So, life takes you down a path, right? Life takes you down a path, and when you get on that path, you gotta go with it. I never expected this to be easy. I knew it was gonna be hard. My opponent, not Olga. No, I want to pay a compliment to my sister sitting next to me because we're running in 10 together. And Olga asked me to run too. But there is no one in our ward, there is nobody in our ward that knows the environmental injustices that's happening like Olga. No one. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. There's no one. And when I win, she's going to be on the environmental committee. Anyway, I don't mean that disrespectfully. I admire her work. She has done so many wonderful things in our neighborhood with the Petco project. I'd be here for a day telling you that. But my opponent is already throwing daggers my way. My dad was a steel worker. My dad was Edward Sedlowski. He was a labor leader in the 70s, and 60s, 70s, and 80s. Everything I knew to stand up for the working class came from my dad. I was the kid who grew up in union halls and picket lines and was taught when you go past the picket line, you raise your fist, you beep your horn, then you go to the donut shop and you go back and bring them donuts. And then you walk with those people. You walk. We had family members that got married at the Congress Hotel. We didn't attend. You can't cross the picket line. I was taught that. I really believe that my opponent is scared of me. His first mailing went out, and he is now the son of a steel worker. Which is not true. So, these are challenges, and I'm sure there's going to be more barbs thrown my way, but that's okay. I got nothing. I got nothing. So, anyway, we are working hard. On the last Saturday, when it was raining and windy and snowing, we had 67 volunteers come out. Today we had 69 people show up to door knock and canvass. We are kicking butt in the 10th Ward, and the amount of support from everyone is awesome. And I really believe women up here, every single one of us, we're going to change that from 16. We're going to change that 16. We're going to change it to 50.
I would say, hi, I'm CM. I guess I should stand up. I would say one of the biggest challenges has been the corralling of resources and getting everyone to understand that it's just that little bit that helps. And to me, for right now, as I talk about that challenge, I'm also making this plea. You know for a fact who's sitting out here who has not helped. And it's not an indictment, I swear, it's not an indictment. I'm a preacher's daughter, I'm not shaming you for your cash. But what I'm saying is this. Every movement has started with a crazy idea. We're crazy. Right. But crazy takes money. I'm reminded of my dad's a sharecropper
Real quick, you know, people talk about, you know, you grow up in school, you hear the revised sermon about enslavement and living down south, and they were like, they were free. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. My daddy was working on the plantation with Old Man Pullman. That was his name, by the way. But what I'm saying is that it takes resources. Each and every one of you, I'm challenging you to get behind someone. You gotta get It's not enough to Facebook about it. I just had a rough conversation with a spouse. Like, dude, thanks for your time, but it's an and conversation. It's your time and your money. And not a lot of money. But help these ladies out. Help us out. The challenge is resources. They are threatened by us.
Yes, they are.
And that's the way that they're hitting us, the way they are. But you know what my dad always told me? Don't throw a punch unless you're willing to take a hit. Ideas, but it requires support. It does require money. No one can say that you can do it without money. Now, we don't have to be fanatical about it and desperate as our current mayor is, raising money to infinity because of fear. But it does require those of us who believe something to put our resources, our finances behind it. So again, I do want to encourage everyone to support, if you have not done so, to support a candidate whose values are aligned with your own, with your resources. I want to get into an issue that pretty much sums up all of the issues that we've seen in our city, something that many of these women, or all of these women, have been a part of, and that is the issue of education in Chicago. I want us to hear from some of you on the role that education has played in your decision to run for office, run for alderman. Just talk a little bit about that briefly, so we can hear from as many women as possible. You want to who's running and then?
Okay. I've been a teacher my entire adult life. I've been a teacher. As a matter of fact, I got my start in the neighborhood where I now live, work, play, learn, live, and I'm running for alderman, which is the 37th ward. And the role that education is playing in this race, but not only in this race, but in this country, is to create disparity. Is to create the have and the have-nots. Is to create a permanent working poor class. That is what the issue is of education. You're talking about bringing in companies who are dedicated, wedded to the ideology to lock whole families in poverty. If you don't understand anything else, me as a black woman, understanding my people and understanding the path that even got us to America and what sustained this country is slavery. But all of us who are lovers of freedom, and I think that's everyone in this classroom, in this room, see my teacher kick in, my teacher kick in, is that the worst thing that you can do to a people is to not educate them. That's right. And when you separate people from who they are and whose they are, and when they miss that very, very valuable lesson of not learning to read, but worse than that, not having understanding, which is biblical. With all their knowledge, get understanding, right? That is what is critically at the epicenter of this. Because you close 50 schools. And that's only the 50 schools that we talk about. This city has closed over 100 schools. And we don't talk about that. They closed over 100 schools in black and brown communities since the 90s. Yes. The very last thing my mother was on WVON talking to Cliff Kelly about in 1996 was the vouchers. And she said, be wary of this voucher program. It will end public education as we know it. My mama saw beyond her seeing, and so it is in divine order that I understand this fight. And it's not only when, I think like my sister said, it's like certain things in your life just push you to this place. And so I believe that. But when the school strike and then the school closings became emblematic of the privatization schemes that's going on in this city, it drew me in such an intimate and authentic way that everything in my body said, fight like hell. And not only do you fight like hell, but you teach these babies what's at stake. It's about some folks who got some degrees and we're going to be about it. This is about fighting for the very soul of this city and country as it is. And the fact that your child and my child and the dream that Dr. King had materialize. That is what this is about. It's about economic disparity. It's about educational apartheid. It is real out here. And everybody has a role to play. Not just the people that we send to the 5th floor, or the 2nd floor as I was corrected. But the bigger issue is, what are we prepared to do once we get there? That's right. That's the bigger issue. We can elect people, we can send people, we can do great work with great intention. But if we do not mobilize, organize our communities to fight the powers that be, we will just be sitting there like lame ducks waiting for somebody to rubber stamp us. So we need you all to help us continue to put the pressure where the pressure has to be placed. And understand what this fight is really about. As long as they can keep separating us by race, class, sex, gender, we can stay separate city. This city has too many resources. This is not about a economic crisis. This is a priority crisis. Yes. It's about putting the money back and reinvesting in these communities that work, live, play, and die in this city.
I'm going door to door and I talk about the priorities of the city. And definitely the one thing that does seem to come off well, the fact that we closed our mental health clinics to save half, or I think $2 million was the one estimate. And yet we put that amount of money into the water fizzle that was the Great Fire fizzle that went on the river. That's what we spent on it. I mean, where are the priorities of the city? So absolutely agree with that. In terms of education, specifically to the First Ward, I think the challenge that I'm having, and I'm trying to get the record out, every decision that gets made has an impact on something else. Our current alderman, actually his wife runs on the board for the area neighborhood charter school, which is 1 block from Von Humboldt. And then 2011, UNO was brought in. The alderman went through Juan Rangel's MLI. There's some, I'm digging through the dollars. There's a unique relationship there. But he was adamant that he needed to bring another charter to the ward. So without even looking at what maybe our region needed in terms of focus, UNO just showed up. So is it any surprise that 2 years later, 3 schools closed? There's not a single neighborhood school left in Humboldt Park. And they got projected over to a school that actually was at worse probationary, worse scores than one of the schools. So I think we need to make people aware that some of the decisions are really, really poor. So again, I think Ann referred to during the 2012 strike, I was standing online with our teachers when Joe was actually on the Fox blasting. But he also, I went looking for that video so I could share it. He also was on National Fox to talk about the New York City bus strike, why they would bring him. But it was like, our favorite Chicago alderman. And he goes, I'm from Chicago. We like privatization here. I was like, I want to keep people working here. So educational, and so, the First Ward does include Rigger Park, East Village. There's certain parts of the ward that are actually pretty gentrified, which is something else I think we got to work on. Right. But there's a lot of people that have put their kids in private schools, or no kids at all. They're more concerned about preservation. So, but what does play very well as I'm talking to them is like, we point out the amount of our taxes that go to the Board of Ed, and the fact that they gave an $8 million contract to clean out the 50 schools that ballooned to $30 million without a blink of an eye. That's our tax dollars. So that does seem to play well. So I would also just want to point out, I jumped into the race. One of the last draws was October 8th when our alderman was mocking the aldermen such as Bob Fioretti and the alderman that wanted an elected school board, calling him lazy. I jumped in the race on the 9th. Within 48 hours, he's finally for an elected school board, even though he's thwarted it 3 times. So we have to spread the word and hold him accountable.
In regards to the education piece, I got really enraged because it just brought me back to Stewart School. Stewart School had just been redone. We had just done the campus park there. They closed the school with not a peep from Cappleman. We had the teachers out there fighting. We had the parents out there fighting. We had the children out there fighting. The employees of Stewart School out there fighting. And not one word from Cappleman. Because he had an agenda. His agenda was when Stewart closed down in June of 2013. In October of 2013, he wrote a letter to Barbara Byrd Bennett, and I got the letter. I got a copy. He wrote a letter Decatur Classical, to come over to Uptown because they were looking for a larger space. They want to add a 7th and 8th grade. He pushed our children out of Stewart School into Brenneman, which is the same setup as Decatur Classical, one-level school. Only Stewart had a 7th and 8th grade. Now our babies, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the Inframull or Similac, but them 7th and 8th graders are some big kids. So if you can see these giant kids going into this little bitty elementary school, it's saddening. They did not even have room enough for them to be in the cafeteria. They were eating in the hallway on the floors. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Bottom line, after February, he goes to Decatur. He goes to the LSC, and he promised them RTIP funding to make the transition for them coming over easy. But he says, oh, but Decatur Classical, it's a Chicago public school. He failed to say it's an elective enrollment. Now all those children in the 1000 block of Sunnyside are going to see all these people bust, all these little ones bust into the school they were just put out. And what's the question they're going to ask? How come they can go there and we can't? He not only did that, but he did charrette with over 110 people, 120 people there at Clear Park. And I really kind of enjoyed it. I got to give him credit for that. I really kind of enjoyed it because I sat down with people who I thought I would never sit down to. With the urban planner, trying to come up to see what our vision was for Stewart School. He duped us, is what he did. He hoodwinked us, is what he did. Because he knew all the time he was courting Decatur Classical. In the last session that we went to at the Board of Election, he was there. I said, shame on you. He knew all the time. But if it wasn't for some of the parents at Decatur Classical that felt some kind of way, they felt a little funky about what he was trying to throw at them, they called me and got a hold of me, and we were able to put our foot in it and apprise the community that, because he doesn't do that. He's not transparent. He throws a rock and hides his hand, and shame on him. I've exposed him. For everything that he does from now on, I have exposed him. We're going to fight for Stewart School. And if Decatur do come, and we're not saying we don't want them there, but we definitely want a 50% community component, or they will not be there.
My father was a union steward. My father would be 100 years old right now. So he had me late in life. And let's say my father was old school. I live in a neighborhood where there are 5 men's clubs. I am not kidding you. They're all supporting Patrick. So women are not forward thinking, let's say. Some women. My mother died when I was 19. But my mother pushed to get me into a really good Catholic high school, Maria High School. And I went to 12 years of Catholic school. One of the early things I remember from going to Catholic school was the nuns telling us, it's Wednesday, it's catechism day, make sure you take everything out of your desk because the public school kids are coming. You want to talk about setting up a class system? I knew it was wrong when I was 7 years old. And that is continuing. That class system in my area continues. They favor the Catholic schools. I got out behind with Jenny Biggs from Raise Your Hand, who's right here, who happens to be my neighbor. I'm very lucky. Jenny brought the issue to us that they were going to close 3 of our schools, our public schools. We fought like hell to keep those schools open. And we had to get the parents to understand how dire it was and drag the alderman out. By the way, our alderman has a 93% record right now of approval. He would have had 100% or rubber stamping. It would have been 100% without us. So I'm just saying that this class system is set up. And being a woman, my father didn't believe that I should have gone to college because I was going to look for a man. And believe me, I wasn't. This is my partner of my better half of 29 years. We're still not married. Thank you. That's all I want to say. There's that class system is set up when we're really young. So be aware of that. Thank you.
Hi, just to say my name again, I'm Guadalupe Rivera and I'm running for alderman in the 16th ward. So I've been teaching for 9 years in my community and I understand the importance of education as everybody else here does. in my community, the poverty rate is 50% higher than it is anywhere else in the city of Chicago. And that's because we lack a lot of education. Not just for the kids, but for our adults too. We need a lot of adult training programs. Our undocumented families need GED programs, they need citizenship classes, they need English classes, and those are things we're not providing for our communities. We need after-school programs. We need to be able to give the youth in our communities opportunities to engage. Not just, we need to give them chances to have jobs, to tutor after school, to raise our little ones so that they're being raised as brothers and sisters and not as gang rivals. I've described the machine as a spoiled cupcake because all we're doing is adding additional frosting to it. We're making it look pretty, but it's still a spoiled cupcake, and I definitely wouldn't want to buy a spoiled cupcake. You know, by adding additional cops or moving cops from one area to another, you're not changing anything. We need to introduce programs like restorative justice where you're getting people to come in. Come in and really be partners, accountable partners for the change that can happen. So let's change this cupcake.
Education is a very important dynamic in a democratic society, and we're leaving it to a non-elected school board. We're leaving these decisions to business partners of the mayor. Education is one of the biggest issues facing the city because it is dividing us, it is creating a class system, and it is hurting us from moving forward. We must have educated voters, people who read even in our city council. And we cannot leave school funding to business partners of the mayor. In addition to that, I think we're uniquely qualified because we see a lot of these issues, we felt these issues, and we see the impact of these issues, not through necessarily being part of a machine, but being in our wards the way we have lived our lives with our children and our families. I think education is uniquely tied to what we're doing, and did you know there's a recent poll, 70% of children going to Chicago Public Schools live below the poverty line. We are uniquely qualified to handle that and say it out loud and say we're outraged. We should all be outraged by that. And anyone who is not, I have to walk away scratching my head saying, how can I really get that person to see how outrageous it is? I'm from a coal mining background. My dad came from a Union, Pennsylvania coal mining town after World War II. Without education, he calls the GI Bill the best piece of legislation ever invented. That's what at least got us to middle class. You know, and that was middle working class because my dad just died 2 months ago and he was still living off his pension. So, thank you.
The GI Bill was mentioned, and I just get really passionate because the thing that was the last straw for me that made me decide I must run was that Alderman Maldonado took Ames Middle School and turned it into a military academy. Because he thinks that the only way brown and black kids can get a good education, discipline, is to be in a military school. And you know, for some people, they make the choice to pursue the military, and it's a good experience for them. But I will not allow for folks to say to our Latino and African American kids that the only way they can succeed is to go to the military. The Oakland Square Neighborhood Association had fought for years to get that school in our community because of overcrowding in the community. Parents had been engaged. Millions of outside dollars through foundations had come in to invest in that school, and against the will of our community, after other CPS closure decisions have been made, our alderman decided out of his own personal decision to close Ames Middle School and turn it into a military academy. We cannot tell our kids that the only way they can succeed is to go to the military.
My name is Tara Baldridge, and I'm running for alderman in the 8th Ward of Chicago. NAACP that was specifically for the 8th Ward, in which I was the only candidate to show up. Wow. Which is typical of our home. So, and of course at the forum they asked about the elected school board and did I support it. Well, I'm sure you know Michelle Harris is the chair of the Rules Committee and did keep the elected school board off of the ballot. So, the 8th Ward owns this. but we will try to change it on February 24th. The state of education in our ward is in dire need. We have a community that is not only split from the rest of the city of Chicago, but also split amongst ourselves. And that is one of the greatest problems on the south side in education. We had 4 high schools in our ward. And then they closed South Shore High School and they changed it to South Shore International School. So what that did was that took the highest performing schools from all of our low performing schools and put them in one place, and then left the other students to fend for themselves. 3 of our high schools have been on probation for 6 years. That's way too long for our kids to be suffering in classrooms with limited resources. So that's what I'm here to change, and that's what makes me want to run. We've got to educate our children. And it sounds cliche, but our children are the future. And if we continue to deny them the resources that they need to be strong in spirit and in mind, I don't know what's going to happen to the city of Chicago or the South Side.
Thank you. Thank you. Because I am a policy person, or policy wonk, if you will, I just wanted to make a point about when we're talking about education, and to highlight the fact that it's not just education for the sake of education. There are some very concrete needs in our economy. One of the myths, or one of just a bad policy position, is this notion that 100% college bound, 100% college bound, right? That is something that is being pushed by the current administration. So I'll be remiss, as we're talking about education, if we did not highlight the fact that there are some very specific needs in our economy that require skilled labor. Yes. One of the things that has happened in CPS, for those of you who follow education policy in the city, is that we've continued to cut vocational education. And so what happens is we've cut vocational education. This is carpentry, electricians, all of those skilled trades that we need.
Will not be replaced by a computer.
Exactly. So we've cut vocational education. We know that we have a school system that struggles to prepare children for college. But when they do not get into college, we throw up our hands and say good luck. And then we wonder why the unemployment rate is what it is. However, I've worked in the manufacturing sector. We had a job that was open, paying $75,000 a year for a skill. They needed someone to operate a CNC machine. That job was open for 2 years. I almost quit my job. Went back and got certification to take that job. So there are jobs available. We have to invest in workforce development. We have to make sure that our children have options for when they graduate. They can work, they can go to college. Hopefully you can work so that you can pay for college so you don't have loans like I did. They need options. And so we have to be, I think, much more intentional about highlighting the need for an education that prepares people for life after high school.
And Amara, just to add to that it's a circular, I work in community colleges, so we see it full circle. What's problematic is that it's a capitalism narrative that insists on a low wage workforce. So if we're telling everybody, go to college, we cut out the vocational programs, there's no way to learn the skill, they water down the skill, and what happens? You get to the site and says, oh my man, I'm so sorry, you don't have that for the certification? Roger that. Yeah, you're only gonna get $10 and it's not an organized labor environment, so if you make me mad, I guess maybe you might not be back at work tomorrow. It is a full circular argument that everyone is a part of. I get it that college is not for everyone, but paying your bills is. That's right.
We're going to shift the conversation a little bit and talk about, because we've talked about education, I think something that is affecting most of us, or all of us in our communities, is the ability for people to be self-sufficient and what that requires. So I want a couple of you to talk about some of the challenges on the economic side and getting people prepared for jobs and being able to take care of basic needs. As you know, as women, we know that's one of the most important things that we have to deal with, is making sure that our families are taken care of, that we're taken care of economically. So if we can talk about some of the challenges with that, and perhaps a couple of ideas to how that can happen. I want to give it to Olga and then Stacy and
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the southeast side of Chicago for this issue because I think it's a very unique neighborhood. We have a neighborhood that has been systematically choked out. There's South Chicago is right next to the site of the U.S. Steel mill, and this area is now being transformed into a new, luxurious, opulent new neighborhood right next to one that is barely hanging on. This South Chicago has 40% foreclosure. It has the highest poverty level. U.S. Steel actually threw us out when they didn't want us anymore and moved the mills to other countries where there wasn't organized labor, where they could exploit workers.
That's right, that's
and
right.
Now we have this same company that is still making money off of our community. Now it's the U.S. Steel Realty. This is outrageous. They own plots of land, and so does the city of Chicago in the south side of Chicago. 80 plots of land. What is going on? If they are really serious about economic development and developing housing, we need that stuff now, not 30, 40 years from now when Lakeside Development is built. Those are the kind of fights and the struggles that we're up against. This is definitely economic racism. We don't have those opportunities. What I'm talking about is, when you're talking about solutions, that's what we want to hold the mayor feet to the fire, to develop that land, to give that to us so that we can have boys and girls clubs, so we can have gardens, so we can have opportunities for our kids, because joining a gang is free. If we're going to offer a solution to that, then we're going to have to offer also free services, because they have continually pushed us and left us to fend for ourselves, and that is over. We are standing up for ourselves. We want economic development. We want those jobs, and the community benefits agreement that the community is trying to put forth. Lakeside won't even come to the table. John Pope won't even acknowledge us. This is ridiculous. We need a community benefits agreement that is going to have penalties. It's going to have civil and criminal penalties. Yeah, you have to start training us now for those jobs. Those are competitive salaries. We want workforce development in our neighborhood so that we can have those jobs. Those are jobs where people can retrofit houses to make them energy efficient, to install solar panels, to do rooftop gardens. Now for our people, and we're gonna do it. We're already in talks with different organizations. What they're doing in South Bronx, they're offering rooftop gardens. Solar panels, and they're working with the banks to give people grants and stipends to be able to do that. That's real, and that's what we need, and that's what we're gonna work on.
Wealthiest ward in the city. There are many disparities of income throughout. I have everything from Streeterville and Gold Coast to Ukrainian Village and Noble Square. And in Ukrainian Village, we need jobs. One area which I think we have a way of keeping going to get jobs is Finkel Steel redevelopment. That's 40 acres right there. And the reason why I have 4 machine factions in my race is because that's 40 acres that can go out to friends and family. But I'm going to fight that we keep that at PMD and we create local jobs there for the 2nd Ward residents. We have to. There's a ploy that's going to be residential, but I'm going to not allow that. I want green manufacturing there. I want something better for our environment. And I want to be creative. Let's bring in like light green manufacturing. I fought to try to get rid of the styrofoam trays in our Chicago public schools, not only for our children's health, but for the environment. I would love to see, say, Chinet come in, move into that area, and let's be making recycled fiber trays for our public schools, and also creating jobs for our citizens. Thank you.
In the 28th Ward, there were historically 2 main high schools. We had Austin High School, which had an awesome program for career training. Westinghouse, awesome program, drafting. Many of the students that graduated from Westinghouse went directly to work in architecture, drafting a number of trade unionist fields. Austin High School is essentially shut down. There's some, three small schools in there that are not doing well at all. Enrollment's down to maybe about 500 students, all three schools combined. Westinghouse is now selective enrollment, and the students that are in that school right now are not the students that live in the community. So that's an issue that needs to be addressed just on the west side. Also, in that Garfield-Lawndale area. In South Lawndale, it shows that we have about a few $1 million manufacturing industry, but they're not hiring the people that live in that community. So one of the things that a community group reached out, and I'm sure they reached out to some of the other candidates, that we need to make sure that we're working with the businesses within the community to make sure that there's some level of agreement that the people that live within those communities are actually being given jobs. Allowing people to come into our communities to take jobs. That's right. And we also need to stop letting jobs in our city go outside of the public sector. That's right. There are a number of things that need to be addressed, and I know with our democratic machine politics, that patronage and a friend of my friend is always my friend. Let me give them something. So with that level of machinations, the 28th Ward incumbent is Jason Irving, who chose to go unopposed. Challenged everybody that was on the ballot, essentially got us all kicked off, so now again he's going to run unopposed. Unless we can get a write-in candidacy going, so that's my plan B. But thanks.
I'm running in the 31st Ward against the Vice Mayor, Ray Suarez, the lovely Ray Suarez. Our area is predominantly Latino. There are technically 68,000 Latinos in our ward. We got 48,000 Mexicans, and we have 15,000 Puerto Ricans, 300 Cubans, and everything's mixed around. Just to let you know, in our area, wow, we have hazardous wastelands. My grandfather has been living in front of a hazardous wasteland for over 10 years. What has Ray done about it? Absolutely nothing. It was supposed to be affordable housing, it was supposed to be a senior center, it's just there, it's rotting. Nothing's happening. This is what he considers economic development, are auto zones. That's what we have. We have auto zones. I wanted to piggyback off of what she was talking about the Ames school. We were completely against that. We wanted to keep Ames open. You know what happened to the students? Those 7th and 8th graders, they came to Calvin Park. And then they transferred over $7 million. I was in conversation with multiple Calvin Park students. I was like, what happened to that money? They're like, we don't know. We don't know where that money's at. And according to Ray, it was used for infrastructure. But it wasn't used for books. It wasn't used for education. A high school student, really nice kid, Jesus, we were talking, he's Mexican. He's telling me that since September, he's been waiting for a teacher to teach his class. Wow. He cannot graduate high school, and it's not the first time, because in my church, we had a student that was having a very difficult time at Calvin Park High School because instead of them investing in their books, they invested in plasma TVs, in pads. That was far more important. Digital equipment was far more important than the actual education for these children. That's what I'm facing in Beaumont Craven. That's what these kids are facing. We have a lot of Latinos that need help. They have to have far more teachers, bilingual teachers, real bilingual teachers. We're trying to have teachers that are actually from the actual ward, but for some reason people keep on wanting to go outside because they don't want to be inside and they don't want to give back to the people. I'm the opposite. I've been there for over 20 years. I want to give back to the people because I represent them and I know exactly what they're going through.
Real quick, my name is Ian Shaw. Again, I'm running in the 1st Ward, and so I'm glad you brought up about the vocational training. So there's this concept that I've been studying for a long time called 2015, and what that means is a lot of manufacturing is coming back to the United States, and we're talking about light and medium. And 1st Ward is one of those great wards where we actually, it's so crazily drawn that there actually encompasses some great manufacturing corridors that are already in place. And I'm actually actively working on bringing some of those jobs to the 1st Ward right now. And that's part of my platform as well. And I've been working and talking to manufacturers that are going to be bringing actual jobs to the 1st Ward and creating these incubator programs for it. Because I've been a civil rights attorney for almost 20 years, like our future Mayor Fioretti here. And I gotta tell you, you know, it's about coming up with solutions. I mean, we can talk about all this stuff, but if you don't have concrete solutions, if you're not working on them, then nothing gets done. And I've been doing stuff my whole life. I started at the very first pro bono legal clinic in Chinatown. It's still run. It's one of the best run in the Midwest. We take people from all around the Midwest, not just from Chinatown, but from other states come in. Because we provide translators, because 90% of our constituents don't speak English. So it's about coming up with the solutions and the problems. And real quick on education, I gotta tell you, I'm here today, I am who I am today, and I became a lawyer fighting for social justice because of my public school education. I did not speak English when I went to grammar school, like many people here. My parents are immigrants. My dad came here with almost nothing, but he decided he wanted to be a social worker. So my dad's a proud Ask Me 31 member. Woo! And he's retired, so he lives on that pension too. He works really hard for the community. But it's because of the wraparound services, which are cut, okay, that I got social workers and I got speech therapists to teach me how to speak English. And I was winning spelling bees by the 1st grade and doing speed reading courses because I had high reading comprehension by 4th grade. So we got to invest in our kids because they need to grow up and have a hope and dream in the future. I'm a product of that, and we can do it. Thank you.
I think one piece of this puzzle that we are not even talking about, and to me, it just, we gotta talk on it, and that is the young people who've done something in their lives that have hindered them for the rest of their lives.
That's right.
The young people with felonies.
Yeah.
We got to talk about this because these are the people. It's like a revolving door. Every day, I can't even go to the jail. Miss Davis, I need a job. I've been looking for a job 2 years. I'm off parole. I'm off probation. What can you do? One thing that I know that we did do in the 46th Ward was we forced, when Wilson Yard was being built, we used some of our TIP funding to send 26 young men with felonies to Dawson Technical School. They went into the trade, whatever they wanted, if it was bricklayer or whatever they wanted to do, that's what they did. They got their certificate, and we forced Walsh to hire them. Now, a lot of them didn't work out. We had 18, I'm proud to say, that did. These guys are making $40, $50 an hour jobs. We have to invest and we have to create choices and resources for our young people who did something stupid when they were younger, but now they know better. We cannot alleviate them out. We need to hear their voices too.
I want to take just a brief moment to encourage all of you to go to the website of these candidates. I know that they have the information that's in the bags at the back. I want you to be able to really read through a lot of the policy positions that they are putting forth. Again, something that I always said when I was running is that I'm not a politician, I'm a problem solver. That's right. And I think we need more problem solvers. So all of the things that these women are speaking about, I'm sure, is on their updated website. So that information is available to everyone in the back. Now before we open it up to the audience, because I think that there are some questions that people in the audience who've patiently been listening to these women that they have, but I want to just ask one last question and get your response. One of the things that is largely missing from our education system and from society in general is civic education. One of the experiences that I had on my campaign, we actually had some visitors from Europe came to see what a grassroots campaign looked like. One of them was from Belgium, and we had a few from Germany and from Switzerland. And they were coming from countries, in some countries where voting is mandatory, where it's about 98% voter turnout. If anyone recalls what the numbers were like last March or even in November, record low voter turnout. And so we have a serious issue with civic engagement in this city, in this country. One of the things is due to the fact that when you are up against a system that seeks to keep people from participating, those of you who are being challenged know what I'm talking about. When you're in a system that makes it seem as though the incumbent is invincible, or where you have elected officials that have allegiance to the mayor as opposed to the residents of their ward, it tends to create a sense of why bother, a sense of discouragement, a sense of apathy. One of the ways to fight against that is through civic engagement. People have to know that this is their civic duty as residents. And so I want to put this question out. What do we do about the level of civic engagement? What will you do about the level of civic engagement in your community? And please use an example of your experience running as candidates, how you are getting people civically engaged and what we can do as a city.
One of the,
Go ahead, Sue.
Sure.
Yep.
Hi, Sue Garza, I'm running in the 10th ward. One of the things that I want to tell you guys about it, my school no longer teaches history. Yeah, no longer teaches history because our principal said it's not on the test. So our 7th graders get history once a week. They have to take the Constitution test, so they're lucky enough to get it once a week. And we have a national board certified social studies teacher in our school that is phenomenal. Our parents are pushing back on that. It's crazy, but one of the things that I find when knocking on doors is a lot of people, there's such a distrust, right? Why should I vote? They don't care about us. Why should I vote? They don't care. I have a lot of kids. I went to the MICFA Challenge and I got 27 kids. 27 kids to sign up to help in my campaign. That's what we need to do.
Yep.
We need to engage young adults and let them know that it is important. And then we need to tell them to go back and tell their parents. And you know what? We don't teach history, but I'm a counselor at an elementary school. It's me with 894 students. And because of the budget cuts, I now teach 10 classes a week. I do lunchroom duty, I do recess duty. And when I'm in those classes, I take the time out to tell them how important it is to vote. And go home and tell your parents. And if you want to come and stuff envelopes or lick stamps or whatever you want to do, come to my office. And guess what? They're coming. Because it makes them feel important. It makes them feel engaged. We got to get people engaged again. Because for so long now, so many people feel like the fix is it. It don't matter if I vote anyway. What are they going to do for me? We've been let down so many times that people feel like, why should we even get up to do it? Why should I drag myself out of bed when it's raining? Why? Who cares? It's not going to make a difference anyway. I am talking to people in the grocery store, in the shoe store, in the fruit market. My kids are embarrassed to go with me anywhere I go. But you know what? You got to. It has to start with the conversation, right?
Yes, that's right.
She's absolutely correct, but let me just add, first of all, as an educator, please know that a part of this Common Core state standard that's being pushed basically almost eliminates history. It folds it into something else in reading. You miss it. If you don't get to it, everybody pat it down because they're testing our kids into stupidity. They are killing the joy of learning. They are killing the joy of activism. But understand this, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm really not. But I do read writing on the wall. And I do know, I ask questions like, who profits when people stay poor?
Yes.
Who's making money off all these damn tests? Who's getting all of this? And so this is the thing. Adults, the onus falls on those of us who know. That's why we're up here. We have to push back. That is what democracy looks like. Democracy looks like you get it, you know it doesn't make sense. No matter where you go, your 1 + 1 should equal 2. All the time. When people start telling you all of these things that you know in your gut do not make sense, please fight back. So what do? I fight back. Fortunately, I get some people to say, okay, I'm gonna fight with her. But to this day, I teach everything that I think my babies need to know. Not only do I teach it in my classroom, I teach it in my home because that's where I learned it. I learned about what it meant to be an activist in my house. I understood about Fred Hampton and Mark Clark in my house. I understood that black folks and preachers didn't even want Martin Luther King in the city of Chicago in my house. When other people had lullabies, I grew up to freedom songs in my house. So I am the way I am. I believe the way I believe because of my mother. And I promise you, there are other women and other teachers and other educators who believe like she believed. So what am I going to do when I'm alderman? I'm going to resurrect the Shule Yawatoto. That means the school for little children. I'm going to resurrect People's Community School. That was a place that parents who had worked all these crazy hours knew they could bring their babies. And not only would they be fed and protected and cared for, they would be educated about who they are. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that we have workforce development programs in the 37th Ward. I'm going to take that building. We have a whole union facility in the 29th Ward, right across the street of Central, that is underutilized by the people in that community. And I'm going to make sure that our people are not only plugged into the right resources, but they are trained, that we have programs that get our young people back on the educational path. And if education in school is 6 degrees and my 4 degrees is not enough, you're not a degree person, cool, because guess what? No matter what, when it's hot, I want air conditioning. And when it's cold, I want heat. And I would love to be able to call somebody that live in my community that can fix those things. And we have to start telling our young people there is value in that. See, it's a setup. It's a setup, y'all. Our country is just trying to privatize itself into ridiculous amount of wealth. If you have working, they want to create a class that is skillless, regardless to what they say. Put your money where your mouth is. If your money is not going to invest in young people in school and education and programs and resources, then where is it going? If it's going to build beams and there's other foolishness that you look at, then there is not a true commitment to investment in the people that you have. The other thing that I am insistent upon, and as alderman, I'm going to make sure it happens in the 37th Ward, is that we have to have bilingual programs. Our babies got to speak both languages. Our kids cannot be raised in the United States of America and not even speak Spanish. We have to make sure that there are dual language programs in our schools. There are art, wraparound services, art programs, music, theater, drama, literature. Our children need full, wraparound, healthy, robust education. Any other community that is high functioning has full investment of every way that a child can be smart. The question is not, are our children smart? It's, how are you smart? Maybe you're smart in science, but you'll never get to know that if you don't have a science teacher in a lab. Maybe you're smart in music, but you'll never get to know that if you don't have a music teacher in an instrument. Maybe you're smart in art. Maybe you're the next Picasso. Maybe you're the next artist. But we will never get to know that if we don't have them in our public school system. So it's time for the citizens of Chicago. And I guess I don't have a preacher in my family, but you would think I do. It is time. It's not just us. I cannot reiterate this enough. You can send us, and trust me, Lord, I'll go. But you all have to support us. Because it doesn't matter if just your baby gets it or just his daughter gets it. That's great if you can go to the selective enrollment school. But what I tell my parents is, what you gonna do when your daughter who went to the selective enrollment school is in love with the boy who went to the school that got closed? See, it's not politics, baby, it's personal. And that's what I tell my neighbors when I'm going door to door. I don't want you to be into politics. I want it to get real personal. Because when they making decisions about whether they're going to cut that EBT card, they get real personal. When they're making decisions and policy about whether your baby will be able to go to school or get a grant or get a Pell Grant because they had their fingerprints taken back in 7th grade, but now you can't apply to college, it get real personal. So don't get caught up in politics, get caught up in personal.
I'd like to say that it hurts me that history is being cut. I'm a published historian. And if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. And they're trying to make sure that you don't know where we've been or where we come from. I think it's really important to know the history of where you grow up. And I think it's super important to understand that buildings that have stood before you were born are important. And they're the most green form of buildings, to restore those buildings. Not to tear them down, but to restore them. And to incorporate the old with the new so that we have a culture. If I want to live in Naperville, I will live in Naperville. I want to live in Chicago. So I'm happy to say that as a published historian, I wrote the Bridgeport history book, and I got to take it around to the schools. And the light bulbs went on. The kids actually were interested in it. And because it was about their neighborhood, it was personal. It needs to be. I totally agree with you. And this fight is personal.
It's personal.
It's very personal. I'm running against a lobbyist who's ready to tear down everything and let his friends come in and build everything. So I'm not going to let that happen. And I'll be his worst nightmare if I don't get elected. So that's it. One of our public schools is teaching a civics class informally on this election that we're having. So they're showing the kids our materials, and they're going to actually have us come in and speak with them. And the teacher took it upon herself to do that, and I commend her. Thank you.
I just want to answer the question, Shadow. My comrades are right here. Ditto. But what I plan to do to get my community engaged is what I've been doing my whole life, is organizing. Beating the doors, knocking on whatever I see that look like somebody standing behind, standing on L platforms, standing at bus stops, getting on buses, getting on L's, and hollering and informing the people of what they might not know. A lot of people seem to think that we all just can talk about the issues, but what have we done about the issues? If I tell you that I laid down in the cold for school closings, Mr. Fioretti was right there with us. If I tell you that we have went and lobbied for minimum wage, Mr. Fioretti was right there, and half the people in the room was right there with us, okay? When I tell you that we have, I'll say Zerlina, over standardized testing, have stood out in the snow last year, 7 days a week for opting out, knowing that I know now that pre-K students can fail over standardized testing, knowing that kindergartens can fail over standardized testing. When you inform parents or community people that these buildings are our buildings and they are not CPS's, that you have the right to go in here and do what you need to do. Why you can't afford to live in a community that's supposed to be a community, but we just have neighborhoods. We have blocks, because each block is different. That does not make it a community. When you, as I say, I do so well, harass the people and let them know why I'm a radical, because everything I fight for is what I live and I desire for. This is not one face. This picture is bigger than all of us. It affects every household. It might not be for education, but just know that every time a school closes, your property value gonna drop, because who's gonna invest in a community where there's no schools? Who's gonna come to a community as a parent? When I bought my home, it was because I had a choice of schools to put my child in. When they closed 6 schools in the Austin community, my child was going to one that was on the list. They closed Emmett, which is where I wanted my daughter to go, that was outperforming the schools that were left, okay? They had more programs and more resources, but shut it down. And told me, my elected official told me it was because of the conditions of the building, but they had just put a new roof on it, just painted it, just spent an abundance amount of money, but then you say, where it was underutilized, where are the kids? There's no affordable housing. There are no jobs. When you think of job creations, bring the people and let them speak. If you ask them, are we sitting on a closed school playground playing with our children, because that's the only place we have in our community, and you say, what do you think's going on? Won't they educate the whole family? The people know. So let's get these conversations going. Let's not put our volunteers out there, because I'm running. I got here late because I'm out knocking on doors. When I leave, I'm knocking on doors. If I see a light on, I'm knocking on the door to tell them I'm running. Okay? If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and a light on, I'm running. This is why I'm running. If you're an ex-offender and you can't get a job or you can't get anything, let's find a way to bring it to the 29th ward. Let's do what we need to do. Thank you.
Again, I want to encourage all of you to visit the website, talk to the women. They'll be here after. For the sake of time, I like to be punctual. I wanted to open it up to questions, but we really don't have time. So I want to ask if it's okay, because I know Hull House was gracious enough to allow us to use the space, and so I want to be respectful of that. Because they could have charged us, this could have been extremely expensive, and they allowed us to use the space. So I want to be respectful of that. But I also want to make sure that the women know that they will be here after. If you do have questions, they'll be there to answer questions, hopefully. Also, just to give an opportunity, one last opportunity for these women to give closing statements. I want to start with Ann. If you could just briefly, a closing statement, something that you want to leave the audience with, respecting that we've got about 5 minutes before we're going to move into the last part of the program.
Real quick, we need help, all of us do. We are all probably vastly underfunded against our challenges. We need bodies, we need money. Thank you.
First, we've talked a lot about education, and something that I do talk, and I'm very much an advocate for our open and our public spaces. I think we need to remind ourselves that the public field houses at our parks belong to us. And I really struggle that they're closed on Sundays when our young people are out of school. So I really think, at least in our neighborhood, there is a boatload of parks. Alderman Fioretti helped me even rename the 61st Park for a woman, so thank you for your help with that. But there are a lot of toddler parks. We need more programming and activities for our 12 to 17-year-olds in the first ward. So that's something I'm going to work for. And again, so thank you.
Reiterate what Ann said, you know, we all need help. We're all under-resourced. I have 3 opponents already that are at 100,000 and above in this race. They're all machine-backed, and I'm the lone independent, and I'm the one that's going to fight not only for the second ward, but fight for communities throughout the city. Thank you.
Tara Baldridge. I just want to say thank you all for hosting this event. I'm very happy to be here. I got into this race because I believe in community, and I believe in Chicago, and I believe in the people that I live among. And I think, 8th Ward, sorry. And I believe that if we work together, we can do anything. I am amazed to be with these women that I am even considered in their company. I have learned so much from so many of you. I respect you, I respect this process, and I'm just happy to be a part, and I'm happy to learn, and I'm ready to work.
You know, so we were talking about civic engagement, and I'm a community organizer. So I feel like there's a lot of ways to impact our communities, you know, our city, our state, our country. And it's not always just voting, it's also starting that conversation. So, you know, for instance, we're starting a curriculum with teachers in the 10th Ward for children. I started organizing around immigrant rights. And in my neighborhood, we took over 3,000 people to march in the first March for Immigrant Rights. And now Obama, you know, has passed DACA and has passed DAPA, Deferred Action for Children and for Parents, and that's because we fought for that. We demanded that. And people might not have seen me out in the street because I'm always in the trenches. I'm always working with people side by side so that we can do something better. And this is my coming out party. This is me saying that, you know what, I have earned this, and I deserve to be able to run in this race, and that's why I decided to throw my hand into the race, because we don't need anyone to speak for us. We can speak for ourselves.
Hi, Susan Lufsky-Garza. I'm running in 10. I would just like to say thank you very much for coming out. And women are traditionally caregivers, right? We can't forget to take care of ourselves. We should like to, you know, I'd like to make a call to action that maybe we can do something. Rosemary, I'm going to give you, you can do the blueprint. We need to come together, maybe, you know, by 4 times a year or something, as women, just to talk and bond and talk about the issues that women face. Because nobody knows women like women. That's right. You know? And I'm just going to close with one quote from Margaret Mead, but I'm going to change it a little bit. Never doubt that a group of concerned women can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
I'll keep this brief because I'm starving. Okay, cool. I like the idea of a spa day, if anybody wants to join us. I just want to say that, yes, we are, you know, people keep saying to me, well, you don't have as much money, and you don't have as many people, and you don't have as many signs. The 2 men in my race are having a sign war right now, and we all know signs don't vote, right? So, I think I'm with Zerlina. If there's a light on, we need to knock on the door. And we need your help. And I'm just going to ask again, please help us. And tell your friends to help us. Thank you.
My name is Guadalupe Rivera, and I'm running for alderman in the 16th ward because we need honest, transparent, accountable change. Vote for Rivera February.
I am CM Winters, running for alderman in the 21st ward. I want to leave you with 3 things. First and foremost, we can do better because we expect more. All right? Number 2, the struggle is really real. I know we watching the movie Selma. I know a lot of times we sit around senior statesmen and they want to romanticize about what it was like back in the day. But let me tell you something. This struggle is really real. And people are hurting. Which leads me to my last remark, and it kind of ticked me off when we was at the Board of Elections. Chick was challenging me, an opponent, ironically. She came and whispered to me, because you know, I have 4 children and I take my children everywhere because I am their civics instructor. I had my 3 boys sitting up there and I'm explaining to them the dynamics of the room. I guess she felt guilty because she came over and said, I just want to let you know, I don't know you and you don't know me, but this is politics, this ain't personal. I cussed. Yeah. I'm going to tell you something. And I'm going to tell you, because I'm going to tell you like I told her, and I'm going to tell you to tell everybody else. Where them babies at in this room? This issue right here is personal than You better pop somebody in the mouth the next time somebody tells you it ain't personal, it's just politics. This is personal. When school closes, it's personal, man. When my kid gets shot out at Brainerd Park because they playing football, it's personal. This right here, let's get hood. This right here is personal.
Research shows that when women are elected officials, they care more about those personal issues because they feel it for their families, that school, you know, the issues about gang and crime. The women feel that, and people get more engaged. Other women get more engaged in politics and in community engagement when they see women elected officials in leadership. So that's why we all need to be here. And speaking of women generally, let me mention there is not one single female Hispanic woman in city council right now. We need
All right, so I feel that there's a movement going, and I think that the movement is to challenge the rubber stamp of city council that we have. We need to have a strong mayor, but we need to have people in city council who are not afraid, who are not beholden, who understand that their goal is to represent people, and hopefully the majority of the people here will be the ones that are elected to represent us.
Okay, Zarina Smith, 29th Ward. If you don't know me, you should already know I love to be a headache. So I'm running because I'm gonna hold everyone in here, everyone in city council accountable. The parks test is coming up. Who gonna be on the picket line with me when we opt out? Come on, who gonna be out there? I am an activist for what we deserve. Our children come first. Our communities is first. Without kids, there are no communities. We gonna be on some picket lines. When they don't do what they say they supposed to do, I'm gonna take this blonde wig off and I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna call him out. I'm gonna call him out if he get elected. We gonna fight and do what I know how to do best. Be vocal and make sure that all this disinvestment throughout the city does not continue. One vote just don't represent the 29th Ward. It represents the whole city. So when you think about who you want in there, make sure that everybody, man or woman, gonna stand up and stand on the line with you when it comes time for what you want. Thank you.
I'm running for mayor, I'm running on the 31st, Belmont Cragen. I am ready because I care about my youth. I want to empower others, especially the Latinos that we have in our area. I've done community engagements, all volunteer, Cook County Juvenile Detention Center, and at Cook County Jail. It's very important that we focus on them. We have to focus on the gangs that we have. It's funny how I understand completely what CM children through because I was challenged. I mean, and that was a brutal challenge where I was challenged and I had to fight.
Personal.
It is personal. Someone told me that, you know, they're like, sweetie, it's just business. I was like, no, it's not. This is personal. This is personal. When you get that phone call at the last minute, you have to show up here. If you don't show up, that's it. We're going to cancel you out. If you go to your hearings, your attorney's not there, and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then the other attorney tries to start the case without, and you know who the person is. Because I'm the only Latina, the progressive Latina running in my ward. And when you know the people, that's even far worse. And the individuals that were involved, I know all of them. It's all about Puerto Rican politics, and it's disgusting. It's really disgusting because they're not seeing that I'm a community person, that I want to give back to my community. And it's like, why do you take out the person that cares about the people that need the help, as opposed to taking out everybody else out? So I agree with what they were saying earlier. Everything, we all need help. We definitely need help. So please help us. Please support us. You have our information, and kudos to everyone that's here. And I commend all the women that are here as well.
We are in good company. I'm reminded, she gave the code, but I'm reminded of Fannie Lou.
That's right.
I'm reminded of Marion Stamps. I'm reminded of Coretta.
That's it.
I'm reminded of Winnie. I'm reminded of Emmett. I'm reminded of Mamie Teal. I'm reminded of Rosa. I'm reminded of all these women. For any revolution that has ever happened in this country or abroad, it was the women that took the point.
That's right.
It was the women who took the point. It was the women that said, hell no, enough is enough. It was Mamie who said, y'all did this to my baby. Look what they did to my baby, and it brought and illuminated what had been happening in the South for many, many years. It was Winnie who, when they put Nelson behind those bars, as a young sister said, I'm still gonna carry this fight. It has been women historically that have taken the point on some of the hardest issues this world has ever had to face, and certainly this country. And we are made of the same kind of stuff.
Yes.
Of these women whose shoulders that we stand on to get this job done, because we are at a delicate place in history. We are at a precipice of great change. And it is wholly important that we have fighters that are prepared to take the point. When they talked about school closings, I was there to fight. When they said they wanted to close Jenner School, which is the last black school on the near north side, or one of two of them, I fought. That's where I met Rosemary, fighting and training these babies to fight and training these parents to fight. And I want to go back to something, and I'm sorry we're running out of time, but this really does speak to a habit of mine. Well, we have to train, and not even train, we have to instill into our people that you deserve better.
Yes.
That your babies deserve safe streets. That you deserve to walk down the street that doesn't look like Baghdad in the city of Chicago. That you deserve to have a job if you live in this city, that you deserve to work here. We have to continue in every ward across this city because we are inextricably connected. The 29th and the 28th are contiguous to the 37th, and some is contiguous to that. We are all inextricably connected. So we will either unify to create a city that Chicagoans deserve or die.
Right. Yes.
I'm very delighted. I'm running in the 40th, and I look around me in my ward and I think, why isn't somebody running? Why isn't somebody running? Well, that somebody is me, because somebody has to. I was lucky enough to be in college in the 1970s and when they were fully funding things like women's studies programs, and I learned activism from women who did some of the same. We have to model that for the next generation, and I still haven't figured out what everyone's afraid of.
Yes.
You know, here I am doing my thing, knocking on doors, and people are saying, you're so brave, and I'm saying, well, I'm a citizen in a country that says I have the right to do this. We have school funding problems. We have the same business voice from downtown that we have all over the city, and we have to do it for everyone in the city. Every child I teach is my child.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Denise Davis, 46th Ward. It just kind of, your mother. your mother. I would have the honor of being with your mom on some of her activism days before she passed. I just kind of got here from Ohio, but then that brought me to another level. When I was 16 in D. Wayne High School in Youngstown, Ohio, I am proud to say that every student in there walked out with me because I demanded a Black History class. And I've been struggling, and I've been marching, and I've been screaming, and I've been hollering ever since. And I will not stop. The 46th Ward is an eclectic ward. The 46th Ward is a very diverse ward. The 46th Ward has every nationality under the sun. It doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to me if you live in a condo, if you live in scattered site housing, if you live in regular house rental, if you live in a homeless shelter, or under the bridge on Wilson Avenue. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me if you're Black, if you're white, if you're red, if you're brown. It doesn't matter. Or yellow. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me if you're young or you're old, rich or poor. Doesn't matter. But what matters to me is that all of our voices are heard. And what happens in the 46, we're not being heard. People do what they want to do. You wake up tomorrow, you go to work, you come home, the house next door might be gone. You didn't know anything about it. We need our voices heard across the city and in the 46. And when we all are elected, and we will be, we are all going to be a force to be reckoned with.
So again, I want to thank all of you for being here. Before I bring up our phenomenal women who put this event together, where the work takes place. That is the work that transforms communities. And so it's very important for me because a lot of times if I had $1 for every time I was told that I'm brave, I would have been able to really run. And so you don't have to be extraordinary to do this work. You simply have to have a commitment to change. Right? And so I'm hoping that what you got from this conversation with these women is not that they are somehow different from you. Not that we are any different from anyone in any neighborhood in this city. Jane agreed. Right. Exactly. So let us be encouraged. Let us be fully committed to taking advantage of this historic moment that we're in, because this is a watershed moment for the city of Chicago. Yes. We have a unique opportunity to completely move in a different direction, in the right direction. And what we do, it will not just affect us for the next 4 years. It will affect us for the next generation. 30 years. Yes. And so for the women here, this is just, I say it for myself, this was just a debut for me. Yeah. All right. The mission is more important than the messenger. Yes. And so the work doesn't end, even if you do not succeed in winning your election. The work has to be done. It has to be done. My hope is that we are committed to the work. That for many of us who are first-time candidates, this was just the first step. Yes. And so I want you to take that with you as you move forward and to be encouraged that take each day as it comes. Right? Take each day as it comes. That you have people in your corner. That it's not about who's out there, it's about who's behind you. Right. So when you're hearing the messages of people who would dissuade you, or people who would discourage you, or people who try to discount you, know that you always have people that are rooting for you. No matter how silent it may seem, there are always people behind you that are supporting you in this work. Right.